everyone, welcome to Palatinate YouTube channel. I'm Editor-in-Chief Tim Sigsworth, with me my Fellow-in-Chief Tash and Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Provost Professor Antony Long. Today we're going to be discussing the university's new strategy to understand the student journey, which is a newly launched project which intends to understand the life cycle of a Durham student. So to kick off, our first question is, if you could sum it up in one sentence, Professor, what does the student project aim to achieve?
In one sentence, we want to try and provide the best possible experience for our students from the first time they even think about Durham through to when they are applied to Durham and admitted to Durham, as they work through their time at Durham and become graduates and valued members of our alumnus community.
Are there any particularly memorable aspects of the Durham experience which you remember from your time as an undergraduate?
It's too long ago, Tash, I'm afraid. You know, back in the mid-80s, it's a hazy past. I had a fantastic time. I was fortunate to be an undergraduate here and also do my PhD here. So I had a terrific time. Memorable moments. Yes, plenty of them. You don't expect me to repeat them all, of course. I need to protect the confidentiality of my fellow students. Joking aside, what would I say? Well, I've really enjoyed, I read geography. I had a fantastic time in the geography department, but we were on the cusp of a technological revolution. And in my days, we drew our maps using pen and ink on tracing paper. We measured them in the field using plane tables and metal chains, and we were just beginning to get computers. So my memories of some of the technology are distant past to where we are now, with due to COVID having all of our education online entirely. I had a fantastic time as a member of my college, and many enjoyable memories from that. I think my biggest claim to fame was as captain of my college rugby team. I had an unrivaled 100% record in all the games that I captained. We lost every one of them, but we had fun doing it.
That's brilliant. Does the uni have any provisional ideas about how it would like to improve its admissions, marketing and recruitment?
Okay, yeah, we have, yep, we've been listening carefully and are in the process of listening to current students, students who are here, who wanted to come here as well. And yeah, I think we're aware of some of the challenges that we've got. One of them that we know about is the nature of our communications. How do we get really bespoke, targeted communications to our prospective students, which gives them as much information about what Durham has to offer them so they can make a really good informed choice? And how do we make sure that once they're interested in Durham, if they've got the interest and the ability to come to the university, how do we make sure we get them to come here and to get as diverse a student population as we possibly can as well? We're very good at attracting a certain type of student to the university. We've done that for decades, but we are really keen to diversify the intake of students. And that means talking to students in different ways to how we've done that previously, be that students at home from the Northeast, from other parts of the UK, or indeed internationally from around the world, because of course we are very much a global university now, and that group of students is very important to us too. We also need to think about things like the speed of our decision making. We do get some feedback which says that we're too slow and a bit too clunky about how we respond to things. And I think that's something which we're sensitive to, because students do want to feel that they are valued at every point of their contact through the admissions process. And we've made really good strides, I think, in recent years through some of our the changes that we've made to the admissions process, but there's still some room to go. You asked, Tash, about our marketing and how we want to change that, and I think it really builds on what I've just been talking about. We want to reach a different group of students to the traditional Durham body. You know, we can reach them all already extremely well. But how do we reach students who might not have heard of Durham, or might have thought that Durham's not right for them because of some of the perceptions which exist about being at Durham University? And we want to be able to reach those students and explain to them what a fantastic place this is and why it could be a really great place for them to come.
Brilliant. So on that note, in terms of admissions, the project states, and you've just stated, that looking to build a more diverse student body. And so my question is, what sort of measures does the university intend to implement to do this? And is that linked by the plans to increase the proportion of international students at the university to 39% by 2027?
So let's take those together. First of all, we have something called an access and participation plan, which we agreed with our regulator, and it has in it targets for how we should be, how we want to diversify our student body at Durham. So we've got some very clear indicators. We set some bold targets about how we want to attract to Durham a more diverse set of students. We use that with the language that we use around this is we look at the ratio of quintile 1 to quintile 5 students. That basically means those students, the number of students who come from areas of the country who are more or less likely to go to university. We're trying to increase the number of students from areas of the country that are historically less likely to come to university. Now we can measure that, and we're making a significant inroads into, or improvements in, the ratio between those two student groups. So that's going well. Now you asked about international students. And there's several dimensions to that. We are a proudly international university, and I think we're very keen that we see Durham as a place where students are able to come to be educated from around the world, but also we've got opportunities to take our education to the world. And of course, we're doing that this year because of the circumstances where we've got several thousand students, now the whole university, but who are studying online. So we do have some targets around international student number growth. And again, we've made some good progress on that with our partners at Durham University's International Studies Centre, based at our Stockton campus, who act as a foundation programme to bring international students into Durham, and also through direct entry as well. So we are making progress on that. I think it's an exciting time for the university as we're beginning to open up other opportunities for students from around the world to experience a Durham degree through being at Durham or at Durham for part of their experience and receiving other parts of their experiencing through online. So yeah, it's exciting times.
We wanted to put questions our readers had to you.
Okay.
And the first is from Fariel Arif, who asks, what qualities, apart from grades, does Durham look for in a student?
Gosh, what qualities? What qualities do we look for apart from grades? Well, we do look at prior achievement, but we do that mindful of the context of that achievement. That's really, really important. So we don't just say, has someone got straight A's or 2 A's and a B or whatever. We look at the context of that achievement. And then we try and make a best judgment about what the potential that student has were they to come to Durham. Are we able to help them realise that potential? So we look very carefully at the information which we get on every single application. We also look at information which we know about the educational context of that individual, that applicant. We know about their school. We know typically what we would expect in terms of the performance of students leaving that school in terms of their exam performance. So we can see where a student sits relatively within their cohorts. So we're trying to be much more intelligent about how we recognise students who have got real potential to benefit from a Durham University experience. And it's definitely not just looking at what their A-level outcomes are or their predicted grades are. We're trying to take a much more rounded view of students' potential and performance, mindful of the context of that achievement.
Another question from one of our readers is Jonathan Leung, and he asks, where does the collegiate experience rank in the university's priorities for the student experience?
Great question, and an easy one to answer. It lies right at the heart of the university. I mean, this year has shown us that perhaps more than ever, the really important, the huge importance of our colleges as places where our students come and enjoy and develop as young adults through their time at Durham University. So the colleges are absolutely central. They have been, they will be. They are quite distinct from other universities, and we're proud of that distinction. So we are a proudly collegiate university. The colleges enable us to do some fantastic things. Of course, our WSE, our wider student experience, isn't just about the colleges. It's also about other activities that go on outside of the colleges as part of being a student at Durham University, including through many of the societies which the Students' Union and others operate. So, but yeah, colleges are an absolutely integral part. We're delighted that we opened 2 new colleges just recently. That's fantastic. Really take that as a signal of our strength and commitment towards the collegiate experience for our students. So yeah.
We've had a question from Sophie Bodenim. She asks, how are you engaging students who are currently working from home?
How are we, gosh, in lots of different ways. And it really does depend, I think, on the circumstances of the particular students. First of all, we know that some students are finding it hard. I mean, Tim, you're struggling with your Wi-Fi at the moment on this call. And we recognise that some students are in settings where it's difficult. You know, you've got family members or friends who are sucking down the Wi-Fi, or you may have particular caring that you're involved with, or you've got other pressures on you being away from Durham during this time. It can be a real challenge. We're trying to support those students that most need help. We've got a scheme for providing laptops to those students, which we're pleased, and we're hoping to that will make a difference to the most pressing needs of our students. We're also trying to help reach out to students, obviously through our education. Depending on the nature of the program which students are on, they will be getting a mixture of different forms of teaching. Some of them, as you'll be aware, are having lectures streamed like this. So synchronous forms of engagement with academic colleagues, and that can be a really effective way of engagement. We're communicating really well here. I think I can see you and hear you, and you might as well be in the room with me. It's fantastic. So that form of synchronous delivery is important. We've also got asynchronous delivery in some instances where we've got people around the world who may be in different timescales, or the different types of education which are more access it as you want to access it, but then have alongside that times when we can have more discursive opportunities for students to meet with students and students to meet with other students, which is of course a really important part of a learning experience. So there are obviously a variety of ways in which we can do that. And we're learning all the time about what works and how we can do things better. And I think a key thing for us to focus on, and the student journey talks to this, is how do we support students that are finding things difficult? How do we know that they're finding things difficult? And once we see that, we can see that by, for example, a student not turning up to a whole load of lectures or tutorials or what have you, or not handing in work on a consistent basis. We could see that. We've got that information. How can we spot a student who might need some support? Or if a student comes to us directly, how do we then respond to that in a really effective way? And at the moment, that can be a bit disjointed. Students might go to the college, they might go to central services, they might go to their academic department. And we're not as joined up, I think, as we would like to be, so that if someone knocks on my door, I'm able to say, okay, yeah, I understand the issue that you've got. I can then talk directly with your college or with the central services and make sure that we're really joined up in understanding the issues and putting in place the appropriate support for that individual. That's a really nice example of the importance of the student journey project, where we're trying to get things joined up better than they are at present in certain areas.
Fantastic. So a major part of the Durham student experience, as you'll probably be aware from your time as a student, is living out in the city. And so this year has shown some issues relating to that very clearly, with houses that are currently empty that students are paying quite high and extortionate, really, in terms of the context of a northern town, rents for those houses. So does the project intend to assess any issues relating to student housing outside of the university?
Yeah, good question. We haven't yet scoped that out, whether or not that will be an area that we'll look at. I do think student accommodation is an important issue. We certainly do need to have a look at that, but the actual scope, whether that includes colleges and non-collegiate accommodation for students, I've not determined that yet. The work that which we're doing at the moment, we're in a scoping phase of the project. We're trying to get a kind of what do we do at present? What's the as is model, and what do we want the to be model to look like? We're working trying to find out, to get a straw doll, if you like, for what the to be model might be like. What I expect that will do, Tim, is identify a broad map, if you like, of the student journey through the time from first interest in Durham to graduation, and identify a series of projects below that, one of which might well be student accommodation. It might be things like timetabling. It might be things like student welfare and support. It might be things like access to learning materials, or student finances, for example, where we need to look at the mechanisms that we've got to make sure they are fit for purpose for what you as the students need. And that's a really important thing. This is a student journey project. We're looking at the university as best we can through the eyes of students. And that's why your voices in helping us understand whether we've got the as is and the to be broadly right are going to be really crucial. And part of the reason I'm really delighted to be on this call is because I'm talking to you directly, and I can encourage you and everyone who's looking at this to get engaged in this process at the opportunities that we've got to feed in your thoughts about how we can make things better for you as students at the university. So back to your question, not done at the moment, but certainly on the table. Would really welcome views as part of the process about how we, if that is appropriate, how we might frame the work that we do, looking at student accommodation issues within the university and its city.
Following on from the current issues at hand, now that the uni has committed to providing a safety net for students, what can we expect this safety net to look like, and when can we expect it to be announced?
Okay, so the safety net is, is well advanced in terms of what we're planning on releasing. We had a meeting with our Senate last week, and we've had lots of discussions with the student union and heads of department and so on across the university about what that safety net might look like. At its core, we want to ensure that every student receives the grade they deserve, despite the pandemic. Now, we also recognise that an approach such as that which happened last year, which was a kind of across-the-board algorithmic approach to grades and degree classifications, they're neither possible nor are they appropriate this year because the circumstances are very, very different. So recognising the challenges that we've got this year and the ongoing challenges which have happened from right the way since this time last year, effectively, we want to. There are a series of specific issues which we will be proposing and which we've agreed around things like. If you're unable to submit your coursework by an agreed deadline, we will be students will be able to request an extension for a period of time. If you can't take an examination, perhaps because you're ill or you're caring for somebody who is ill, you'll be able to defer your assessment to one of the research period later on in the year. If your dissertation has been affected or any other substantive part of your assessment has been affected by these factors, then you'll be able to make that representation. If your marks look as though they're significantly out of kilter to what we might expect, then boards of examiners are receiving clear advice about how they need to really carefully consider the needs of those students. And we want to make sure that at a university level, we ensure that the marks that we award through graduation reflect the performance of students and are as in line as we can possibly make them with what we would expect to be the case in a more normal year. Of course, this year is different to last year because last year everything got shoved online. We taught a lot of it faced in a conventional way, and then we moved all online. This year we've been delivering a lot of material online, and we've been able to think really carefully about aligning the assessment against the modes of delivery and what our learning outcomes have been in the modules right from the get-go in the academic year. So we as a Senate, we had a fantastic discussion last Thursday. Students were a really key part of that and have been incredibly positive in the discussions that we have. Universities, our position was shaped significantly by the student input to it. I think it's fair to say we didn't agree on everything, but we have agreed on a number of issues which create a package, which I hope very much does give students assurance that they will be graduating this summer with the degree that they deserve, and that our boards of examiners will be considering each and every case with absolute due diligence and care to make sure no student is adversely affected as a result of this pandemic.
Can we expect any reductions on our tuition fees, considering this year we've had a substandard uni experience?
No is the answer at the moment. You know, the government's made that clear that the expectation is that universities will deliver against the learning outcomes for the degree programs which students are registered on. We are absolutely committed to trying to do that, Tash, in every possible way we can. We have reviewed all of the courses that we're offering at the moment to assess, particularly as we moved all online this term. We spent a lot of time as a community saying, right, are we sure that we're able to deliver the learning outcomes which you said at the beginning of the academic year? Have we communicated what we're doing clearly as we possibly can with the student body? Have we consulted appropriately and so on? So we have, I mean, I want to put a big call out to my academic colleagues because they've worked tirelessly to try under really difficult conditions, working with you as a community, with the students as a community, to get the best possible learning outcomes, mindful of the really difficult, challenging context within which we're working. So on tuition fees, no, that's not the position of us, nor indeed of the sector more broadly.
Are there any provisional plans for changing the way in which the university engages with its alumni?
Well, we are continually thinking about how we can do that more effectively. We have a review of our marketing division, which is and our marketing communications, which is happening at the moment. I think we are continually thinking about ways in which we can engage with our alums from the day they graduate all the way through the rest of their lives. That's not just thinking about how can we get together to have the odd nice, catch up and have a meal and so on, or come to Durham just for the odd weekend here and there. I think we're much more interested in developing more substantive, deep lasting engagement with our alums throughout their lives. That may mean picking up learning opportunities in a formal context with the university at a later stage in life. So we might be thinking about how we could develop educational programs, which may not be conventional degree programs, but nevertheless will give our alums opportunities to continue to engage intellectually with the core of the university in terms of what we do in our education and our research. I think that could be hugely attractive. I know, when I hang up my boots, if I've got a chance in retirement to dip into Durham to sit a 101 class in astrophysics, knowing I've got a world leader doing that, I might fancy doing that to keep the grey matter ticking over. So I think that yes, we are interested in making our education offer open in different ways to different people at different stages of life, and our alumni are going to be really important. I think another area which we're interested in building on further is around employability. So our alum network is unbelievable. If you go to any of our alum events, you meet the most wonderful people that have done incredible things in their lives. They are deeply committed to the university and they want to help. They want to give back. and I think we're really interested in ways in which we can work with that community in the UK, around the world, in order to support our students and what our current students are doing as they develop their skills before leaving the university and going out into the outside world. And then I think a third area is obviously around philanthropy, which is where we have alums of the university who choose to give back to the university in the form of financial donation to the university to underpin the work that we're doing, be that in our education portfolio. Could be supporting something like Women in Technology. It could be supporting more diverse access to the university from students who might otherwise not be able to come to the university. Or it could be through investing in some of our research institutes. For example, Charles Wilson's investment in the Institute of Hazard, Risk and Resilience, which has been a long-standing investment, which has had a real material impact on the way in which that institute, through its research, has been able to shape the lives of many people around the world. So there are a variety of different ways and touch points in the student journey, if I can call it that, from the day you graduate all the way through the rest of your life, where we want the university to stay close to you as students, as graduates, as you move through your life in a way which works for you and makes you feel a continued part of our fantastic community.
Brilliant. And our final question for you: other than admissions, are there aspects of the student experience which can be changed to ensure broad access?
Other than admissions, yeah, that's a good question. To ensure broad access, I think, yeah, other than admissions, yeah, I think there are. Why I'm pausing, Tash, is because you've actually asked a very profound question there, I think, about how we as a university are open to students from a more diverse background to the current distribution or type of student body that we've got here. A lot of that relates to our culture, about what it means to be a student at Durham University. What do you actually experience? We know, for example, that some students from the Northeast find Durham a difficult place to be because in some situations they can feel alienated from the student body. That shouldn't be the case. We should be open and inclusive to students regardless of where they've come from, and in some ways particularly if they are from the Northeast and from the city in which we're fortunate enough to operate from and to work from, to teach in. So the student journey is going to be thinking about things like student support. I think student support does touch on the way in which we engage with students, particularly students who are feeling that they want to have some additional support. It will touch on, I suspect, employability, so that could be important too. So but it's, I actually think the student journey may not be the best way of doing that. I think we've got some other more deeply rooted cultural changes which we're working hard on, which will, I hope, result in a university which is seen as being genuinely open to students from a whole range of backgrounds and more diverse than they currently are. And critically, that's going to involve working closely with all of the student community as well. I know many of whom are deeply committed and feel as strongly as we do about trying to make those changes.
Deputy Vice-Chancellor and Provost Antony, thank you so much for speaking with Palatinate.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for the discussion, Tash and Tim. Very nice to meet you. I'm glad to see you're well and enjoying the snow, and it's been a real pleasure. So thank you very much as well.